If you watched our last story, about the spy who started a war, then you know how close the world has come to disaster. But today, we bring you something even more haunting. A story not about a war that began, but a war that almost did. One that would have ended everything. On a quiet night in 1983, a man you've never heard of sat in a room you've never seen. And when the alarms began to scream, when the machines told him the world was under attack, he had to choose. Obey orders, or disobey, and risk being wrong. This is the true story of Stanislav Petrov. The man who saved the world. As Petrov sat at the console, the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. The countdown had begun, and every second felt like a lifetime. He could sense the tension in the air thickening, constricting around the room as the technicians exchanged glances filled with uncertainty and fear. They were all aware that one misstep could lead to irrevocable destruction, not only for their nation but for the world as a whole. As Petrov's mind raced, he thought back to his training, his instincts battling with the system's demands. The alarm's red glare felt more like a cruel joke than a warning, the stark letters mocking him as he weighed the potential consequences of his decision. "What if I'm wrong?" he mumbled under his breath, grappling with the unimaginable burden of either confirming the alarm or choosing to ignore it. The technicians held their breath, each moment stretching into eternity as the severity of the situation pressed down on them. As the chaos unfolded around him, Petrov found his thoughts drifting towards the lives his decision could impact: families, friends, strangers, and even the abstract notion of a future. Each face danced in his mind, reminding him that the stakes were more than just numbers or calculations, they were real lives at risk. He glanced back at the red screen, its warning so definitive, yet his gut told him otherwise. "This is madness," he whispered, struggling against the oppressive weight of his duty as the seconds ticked by like a countdown to an inevitable explosion. The pressure was unbearable, and yet, in that moment, amidst the blaring alarms and palpable dread, he realized that a choice must be made. A choice for humanity. A choice against the machines designed to decide for him. "If I choose wrong, there will be no second chances," Petrov thought, a cold chill running down his spine. He could hear his own heartbeat echoing in his ears, drowning out the alarms that screamed for immediate action. The red lights flickered ominously, each flash a countdown to potential annihilation. His fellow technicians, typically composed, were now on edge, visibly wrestling with their anxiety as they awaited his call. "Think, Stanislav," he urged himself, fighting against the panic that threatened to overwhelm him. Suddenly, clarity pierced through the fog of chaos. What if this is a mistake? What if we've been fooled? The questions flooded his mind like a torrent, each one more pressing than the last. He cast a fleeting glance around the bunker, catching the apprehensive looks on the faces of the men he worked alongside day in and day out. They were not simply colleagues, they were human beings, each carrying families, dreams, and futures entwined with his decision. In that moment, Petrov understood the gravity of the choice he faced. Was he willing to risk everything based solely on a machine's reading? He exhaled deeply, gathering his thoughts, as the ringing of the phone ached in his ears, symbolizing the crossroads of potential destruction or preservation. His instincts urged him to pause, to listen, to trust in something deeper than protocol or artificial intelligence. With each deliberate breath, he felt the weight of responsibility transform from a shackle to a shield. Would he take a stand against the automatic response programmed into the very heart of their defense network? The answer hung in the air, an echo of possibility cascading around him. As he wrestled with the magnitude of his choice, Petrov's mind drifted back to his family's faces, imagining their laughter and warmth. His wife, Raisa, with her gentle smile, and his son, full of dreams for the future. The thought ignited a flicker of resolve within him. How could he let this moment decide their fate based on a potential error? He closed his eyes for a brief second, breathing in the musty air of the bunker, letting it swirl around him as he pushed back against the fear engulfing every corner of the room. The sirens continued their relentless wail, but in his heart, a sudden clarity emerged. "I am not just a cog in a machine," he reminded himself, the truth resonating powerfully. "I have the power to choose, to reflect upon the situation. Relying on the cold logic so deeply ingrained within him began to feel inadequate against the throbbing reality of humanity's fragility. The technicians awaited his decision, uncertainty etched in their expressions, but Petrov understood that their lives depended as much on his discernment as on the systems designed to protect them. Every second that passed felt like a universe stretching out, filled with possibilities, potential lifetimes of peace or conflict. In this moment, he was not just a soldier. He was the compass in the midst of a storm, tasked with navigating uncharted waters teetering on the brink of chaos. As he gathered his thoughts, he realized that turning the machine's alarm into action would mean surrendering the power of choice. Stanislav Petrov knew that a true soldier was not merely defined by the orders they followed but by the decisions they made in the name of humanity. The path before him was not devoid of fear, but it was a pathway steeped in conviction and responsibility. A chance to protect a world that may never fully appreciate the burden of such choices. Finally, with a surge of determination, Petrov gripped the phone. The decision was upon him, an instant that felt monumental yet painfully fleeting. No launch, he breathed, forcing the words into the silence, letting them carry the weight of his conviction. In that moment, time seemed to stand still as he hung up with a finality that both terrified and liberated him. He had defied protocol, silenced the alarm, and in a heartbeat, shifted the course of history. The room exhaled as he sat back, his heart racing but the dread receding, replaced by a frail yet profound sense of hope. A hope that now hung delicately in the balance between consequence and salvation. In the aftermath of that fateful decision, the room fell into an eerie quiet, a stark contrast to the chaos moments before. Petrov's heart still raced, the adrenaline coursing through him, yet an unexpected calm enveloped him as he gazed at the monitors, their screens now devoid of alarm. Slowly, the tension in the bunker began to lift, as if a tightrope holding the world together had just been slackened. The technicians, who had been frozen in fear, exchanged uncertain glances, cautiously acknowledging the relief gathering around them. Petrov's sense of isolation lingered, though. The weight of the decision he made still pressed against his chest, heavy with the knowledge that the world was not yet saved completely. As the minutes turned into a stillness that felt almost surreal, someone finally broke the silence. "Did you really think it was a false alarm?" one young operator asked, his voice a whisper, barely breaking the weight of gravity still in the air. Petrov, lost in thought, met the question with a steady gaze. "Maybe," he replied slowly, considering the path that could have unfolded. "But sometimes, we need to trust our instincts above all else." The promise of a new dawn flickered ahead, shrouded in fog yet beckoning brightly, signaling that the balance of fate had shifted, for now. As the moments passed, the air in the bunker began to shift from chaos to a cautious tranquility. The tension that had previously gripped the technicians started to evaporate, replaced by a strange mix of disbelief and relief. Petrov's pulse gradually slowed, his heartbeat echoing the burdens he had just lifted, not just from himself, but from the world. The young operator's question hung in the air, heavy with its implications. "You acted on instinct," he murmured, awe lacing his tone. Petrov nodded, aware that instincts sometimes weighed more than logic encoded within machines. The screens before them flickered back to serene blues and greens, an entirely different narrative than the red alerts had promised. He understood the true value of doubt and reflection in a world governed by cold calculations. "Instincts," he finally replied, taking in the faces surrounding him, faces etched with worry and fatigue. "They remind us we are human. Today, we chose humanity." The soft murmurs of acknowledgement rippled through the room, as each technician slowly regained a sense of normalcy, their breaths gradually easing. Peering around the bunker, Petrov recognized that while his decision might never be celebrated, it had spared lives. It was something profoundly human. A collective silence that provided an unspoken thanks for every second they now had. They were all part of something bigger than the events of that night. They held an unbreakable bond shaped by choices made in a fraction of a moment. The tension eased into something potent and strangely uplifting, as they exchanged glances filled with a newfound sense of solidarity. In that bunker, under layers of concrete designed to withstand a cataclysm, trust overshadowed paranoia. A decision that would echo in eternity. and reaffirmed their humanity in a time when machines attempted to dominate their choices. Without fanfare or accolades, a quiet resolution settled over them as they contemplated the fragile balance between life, technology, and choice, forever etched in their minds. As dawn broke over Moscow, a profound sense of normalcy returned to the world above. Yet in the Serpukhov 15 bunker, echoes of that fateful night lingered like shadows, silent witnesses to a decision that had pivoted the trajectory of history. Petrov watched the technicians slowly resume their routines, the initial fear giving way to a cautious optimism, for they had survived a moment poised on the edge of annihilation. In the days that followed, the incident would fade into obscurity within the corridors of military bureaucracy, buried beneath myriad reports and the relentless grind of Cold War politics. Petrov knew that recognition would never come for him. He was a man of silence in a world that glorified noise. Yet, in the hushed sanctuary of his mind, he held the weight of countless lives saved, a burden transformed into quiet pride. Ultimately, he learned that true heroism often resides in the shadows, within those who gravitate toward introspection instead of action. The world might not have known his name, but Petrov grasped a sacred truth. Some battles are fought not with weapons, but with heart and judgment. And as he walked away from the bunker each evening, Petrov carried the hope that humanity could always find a path back from darkness, if only they chose to listen. In the annals of history, we find the stories of those who changed the course of our fate, often without celebration, like Stanislav Petrov. His quiet resolve in the face of overwhelming dread rippled through time, a powerful testament to the human spirit's innate ability to question and reflect. As we contemplate the fragility of peace, we are reminded of the profound impact of thoughtful decisions. The world spins on, and lives continue, thanks to an unassuming man who believed in the power of doubt over blind obedience. Let us remember his courage, reflect on his legacy, and carry forth the truth that sometimes, the greatest actions are indeed the silent ones that protect us all. In the aftermath, a quiet resolution settled over the bunker, and the technicians resumed their routines, each understanding that they had collectively skirted a cataclysm. Stanislav Petrov, standing in the backdrop of ever-silent machinery, felt the weight of his choice reverberate through the stillness, a stark contrast to the cacophony that had engulfed them only moments before. They had recognized that within the chaos of commands and protocols, a man had listened to his instincts, not merely as a soldier, but as a human being. Out of the shadows, the instinct to protect the innocent had taken precedence over machine certainty, and though he might never receive accolades or fame, Petrov understood the profound ramifications of his decision. Every breath drawn in that bunker danced along the fragile thread of peace they now held, one that rested on the instincts of a soldier who chose humanity over protocol. Thus, the world continued, illuminated by the quiet echoes of one man's bravery. And so, we are left with the reminder that true heroism lives in those who dare to pause and reflect amid turbulence, for they shape our existence in ways history may never fully acknowledge. The world above continued its daily grind, blissfully unaware of the dark shadows cast by the Cold War. Cities buzzed with life, families gathered for dinner, and children played in the safety of their neighborhoods, all thanks to the choice made by one man in a hidden bunker. News cycles turned, with stories focused on conflicts and political strife, seemingly oblivious to the bomb that never fell. Yet in Moscow, as the sun bathed the landscape in golden hues, Stanislav Petrov carried his memories with him, a living testament to the day he defied fate. His existence may have faded into obscurity, but the legacy of his choice reverberated in every heartbeat, whispering the truth. Sometimes, the most profound victories come not from grand gestures but from quiet defiance in the face of chaos. Days after the incident, life in the bunker returned to its harsh routine, but for Petrov, everything felt irrevocably altered. He continued to perform his duties, yet an invisible burden rested heavily on his shoulders, a constant reminder of what had transpired. The world continued to spin, but he felt like a ghost in his own life, moving through motions that once felt so vivid and essential, now merely echoes of a past self. Each passing day blended into the next, a cycle of reports, watches, and machine maintenance, while the shadows of his decision lingered like an unshakable fog. It wasn't long before whispers of discontent emerged within the ranks. Fellow officers, aware of the tension surrounding the ecosystem, began to question the dependency on machines and algorithms that dictated life and death decisions. Among them was Major Ivanov, a fellow technician who had worked with Petrov for years. Ivanov shared his concerns during their brief conversations, venturing to suggest the dangers of becoming entirely reliant on technology. "These machines can't think, Petrov. They don't understand us," he urged quietly. Petrov listened but remained cautious about voicing his own thoughts too openly. He reflected on the split-second decision that had saved them all, not just from missiles but from the cold, sterile grip of a system that granted no compassion nor consideration for the human element. Days turned into weeks, and each moment left Petrov grappling with the consequences of his action, or inaction, in the eyes of his superiors. Conversations among technicians grew increasingly tense, as the specter of that night cast long shadows over their work. Erroneous alarms became a focal point of discussion. They debated how closely they could trust the very systems designed to protect them. The machines, once revered for their precision, now evoked a palpable anxiety, stirring doubts in the minds of those who had witnessed firsthand what reliance on error-prone technology could mean. Petrov pondered the implications, knowing full well the risks of such discourse. Trust in the machine was the mantra drilled into their ranks, but he wondered how many lives depended on unyielding faith in silicon and circuits over human intuition. He had defied that doctrine and acted on a gut feeling, and while he had saved the world in a moment, the darkness of ignorance still wrapped around the military like a shroud. One quiet afternoon, during a break from their relentless maintenance tasks, Major Ivanov sat beside Petrov in the bunker's dimly lit cafe. "Do you think they'll ever understand what really happened that day?" Ivanov's question hung heavily as he gazed into his coffee, the steam rising like wisps of an uncertain future. Petrov sighed, trying to choose his words carefully. "They may never know, Ivanov. It's easier to ignore discomfort than confront the truth that machines can fail. But how can we trust them, or the protocols they enforce, if they lead us to the brink of destruction? You saw it. We could have wiped ourselves off the map," Ivanov pressed, eyes shimmering with a mix of urgency and fear. In that moment, Petrov felt a flicker of resolve ignite within him. "Then perhaps it's time we start to question everything, even our reliance on orders. We are more than just cogs in a machine. We are thinkers, and the fate of humanity rests on thought." Their discussion lingered in the air, sparking a series of quiet conversations among colleagues, drumming up a new sense of unity and purpose among the technicians. Despite their fear of reprimand from higher-ups, they began to share their experiences, fostering an atmosphere in which instincts could once again be valued alongside machinery. Petrov found himself rooted in a newfound determination to advocate for humanity among machines, a cause born from the silence of that moment when he chose to trust his gut over an automated directive. It was a journey fraught with the risk of exposure, but he understood that even whispers can grow into roars. The dialogue between Petrov and Ivanov evolved into a movement among the technicians, the need to bridge the gap between human intuition and cold calculation. As discussions deepened, they pushed boundaries, questioning whether every procedure and protocol was truly infallible. Together, they penned a letter to higher command, advocating for more rigorous evaluations of the systems in place and the necessity for regular training focused not just on the machines, but on human judgment. That collective effort began to ripple through the military, igniting a spark of reconsideration about the pivotal roles of not just technology but the individuals operating it. They understood that humanity must take precedence over automation. Otherwise, they risked living in a constant state of fear dictated by malfunctioning algorithms. In that tiny corner of the Cold War fortress, the seeds of change took root, as Stanislav Petrov became an unexpected catalyst for a movement seeking to reconcile man with machine. Through their quiet defiance, they honored the unspoken promise of that fateful night, one that reminded them that true heroism lies in questioning the status quo and safeguarding the essence of humanity against the mechanized tide. As the weight of his choice began to transform the future of military operations, Petrov grasped how profoundly his solitary decision had resonated, not just on that crucial night but in all that was yet to unfold. Stanislav Petrov's legacy became a whisper that resonated through the ranks of the Soviet military, igniting conversations about the delicate balance between lives and technology. The technicians who once lived in the shadow of fear began to see the value in their collective voices, each person no longer just an operator but a guardian of humanity's essence. With every meeting and shared insight, they sowed the seeds of change, advocating for a future where human instinct took precedence over automated commands, ensuring that no one would ever have to face another moment like Petrov had endured. In the years that followed, as history revealed itself, it became clear that the heart of a soldier lies in their ability to pause, reflect, and choose wisely, shaping the world in ways that numbers alone could not. Thus, the quiet courage of one man had not only altered a single night but also sparked an enduring conversation, a testament to the power of humanity in an increasingly mechanized age. As we reflect on Stanislav Petrov's profound impact, we are reminded that the most significant changes often arise from quiet acts of courage. He taught us that the essence of humanity lies in the choices we make, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Let us honor his legacy by cherishing our capacity for doubt and reflection, ensuring that we never again allow machines to define our futures.